Greetings, true believers. I am Drew, and this is House of Ideas Historian. I love Marvel. I have dedicated a large portion of my life to it, whether that's watching the cinematic universe over and over again, or reading every Avengers book out there. But I don't just love the stories and the characters. I love the history behind the pages, the authors, the artists, the editors. What was going on in the world at the time, and how was that reflected in the pages of the books? That is why I created this channel, because I want to share my passion with you, so we can talk about the history of the House of Ideas. Now, I have a lot in store for future content, but for now, let's talk about the very beginning. Let's go all the way back to October of 1939 with the release of Marvel Comics #1. If we're talking Marvel Comics, there's one name that we need to mention. And no, it's not Stan Lee. We'll get to Stan the Man in a later video. The name is Martin Goodman. But to really get Martin's story right, we need to backtrack just a little bit. Goodman was a magazine publisher and editor in the early 30s. His very first publication was the newsstand publication's pulp magazine, Western Super Novel. He published a lot under this title. One of the characters some of you might actually recognize. He was a Tarzan-like character by the name of Kazar. Now, let's fast forward a little bit to the year 1937. Martin Goodman and his wife were returning from their European honeymoon. They had tickets upon the Zeppelin LZ-129, but when they got there, they realized that they didn't have any seats together. So they opted to take a plane instead. And good thing they did, because LZ-129 is also known as the Hindenburg. Now, this might not have a lot to do with Marvel directly, but I still find it crazy. If Martin Goodman and his wife had seats together, we might not have anything that we know and love today. Let's fast forward just one more time. The year's 1939. Just a year earlier, 1938, Action Comics #1 was released, and with it, the birth of superheroes. A whole new genre was introduced, and with it, a new medium, comic books. Martin loved the idea of comic books. So, in October of 1939, under the name of Timely Comics, Martin Goodman released his very first comic book, Marvel Comics #1. Considering I've not read this issue before, I took this opportunity to give it a shot, and tell you what, I was very excited. One of the things I want to do on this channel is help novices know where to get their start on their comic ventures. I'll have greater detail on particular lines later. As for today, you could imagine that getting a hold of an issue of Marvel Comics #1 would be a very difficult task. Comics this old rarely survive the test of time, whether it's between the books not being taken care of or comic hate groups such as schools and churches. Many of the original books were destroyed. That makes the ones that survived quite rare. In November of 2019, a issue of Marvel Comics #1, rated at 9.4 out of 10 on the CGC, sold at auction for $1.26 million. Unfortunately, I didn't get the issue. There are a couple hardbacks that collect this issue. You could pick those up at your local bookstore. I went a different route. I do a lot of my reading on Marvel Unlimited. Marvel Unlimited is an app that you can download on your mobile device. For $10 a month, you have access to 25,000 comics, including Marvel Comics #1. This was a very refreshing read for me. No surprise, but comics have evolved over the years. This was a brand new experience for me, to read an issue from the very beginning of the golden age of comics. The first thing that surprised me was the sheer size of the book. If you head to a local store today and pick up an issue of Thor, the book would be about 23 pages long. This behemoth was 63 pages long, with 6 separate stories. 2 of the stories are quite significant. The first is the very first appearance of the Human Torch, Jim Hammond. Now, this might not be the Human Torch from the Fantastic Four, but it's still important because this story is still considered canon in the Marvel Universe. That means Marvel's timeline lasts from 1939 all the way to 2020 in one cohesive story. The second appearance fans for today might recognize. It's Namor the Submariner. I found these stories to be quite compelling. I don't know what I thought going into it. Maybe I expected them to be a little bland or a little dated, but I was very wrong. I found Namor's story to be quite enthralling. Over the years, Namor has been depicted more and more as a reluctant hero. But in this first issue, he was quite the anti-hero, as he battled the land-dwelling humans to protect the submariners. Not gonna lie, he racked up quite a body count. Y'all should give it a read. Overall, Timely did well in the beginning. Marvel Comics was very well received. But this was just the beginning. The 40s breathed an entire new life into the comic book industry, and it gave Marvel one of the genre's most iconic heroes. But that's a story for a different day. As for today, that's a wrap. Thank you very much for watching my channel. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I have a lot of ideas for future content, but what do you want to see? Let me know in the comments below, or hit me up on the socials. Links are in the description. As for now, hit the like button, be sure to subscribe for all future content. Excelsior, historians! Till next time.